shadows do collide. Whispers and tongues, your dressing gown awaits for your return. You and I will fall 100 floors to embrace God's honest truth. You and I.
Hey guys, welcome to LA Love Creative, and today we're talking about the 24-105 f4 RF lens. Should you consider buying it, and is it actually worth the money? Now, I've used a lot of different RF lenses in the Canon ecosystem, ecosphere. And lately I've just been really experimenting with different RF lenses for the Canon R6, for my Canon EOS R, for my Canon RP. And I kind of just been messing around to see if like any of these RF lenses really hold their weight. And a few of the lenses don't really get talked about, and one of them is the Canon 24-105 f4. Now I know a lot of people are already thinking the reason why no one talks about it is it's a f4 lens, which I'm a little bit more relaxed in that stance. Now, I prefer a f2.8 or lower when it comes to lenses, obviously f1.4 or 1.8, but a lot of creators I think sleep on the fact that not every lens needs to be a f2.8. Depending on the project or what you're doing, not every lens you use needs to be really fast. Some creators need that. A lot of creators, a lot of photographers shoot at f8 and f11, like, you know, for most of their fashion or whatever work. So having the fastest lens is not always needed. It really depends on the creator. Now, I recently had a shoot. I had an awesome location in Hollywood. It was this really cool old building. I think it was one of the buildings like Charlie Chaplin used to like live there or something. I don't know. And it was one of those buildings that just had a lot of history behind it. I had a model from an agency I work with, and I was thinking of doing something a little bit more vintage, more fashion inspired. I actually found the building off of Peerspace. I love using Peerspace. I love that website. It's a great spot to find, you know, rentals for parties, for photo shoots, for productions, just an all around great website. So lately what I've been doing is if I want to test out a lens, I'll just rent it from ShareGrid or Lens Rental or one of the sites that I like to use, and I'll just try it. And I always make sure to have my backup lenses with me, my Sigma lens kit with me, just in case I don't like the lens. I can always go back to what I'm actually doing. But I like to test out a lens this way to see if I can make it work for any type of shoot that I'm actually doing. I think it's one thing to look at reviews or to test the lens in a studio or some type of thing, you know, shooting charts or something like that. One of the best ways to test out a lens is to just start shooting in the normal stuff that you do for clients and see what happens. So on my fashion shoot, I was using the 24-105. I thought it had a lot of good range. I was in a very tight spot, so I used mostly 24-70. I don't think I really ever went to 105, but I really like the fact that this lens has such a long reach, so it is really cool to have that option. Now, one thing I like about the 24-70 105 is even though it's made out of like a plastic-y type material, it feels pretty solid. It's a lens that's not very heavy, but it feels pretty good in your hands, and it doesn't feel like a lens that's just gonna break apart with like, you know, other cheaper generic lenses on the market. It felt like it actually could handle a lot of wear and tear, but it is not made from the heaviest of metals and stuff like that. If you use the 28-70 f2, that lens is so heavy and so like robust. This lens is not like that, but I actually like that. I actually find that a lot of lenses on the Canon RF side are really heavy. So it was really kind of cool to have a lens that was not heavy, that I could walk around with all day and shoot with, and I never felt like my arms were gonna get tired shooting with. One thing I really like about the 24-105 is there's not really an equivalent on the f2.8 side. This is just a very niche lens. It's a great lens for beginners and people like that because it's a lens that really just covers so many different focal ranges. You really could shoot a lot of different things. I could see a lot of photographers that are in, you know, wedding or fashion work with this type of lens if you're okay with it being f4, just because the fact that you can shoot wide and go all the way to telephoto and get that compression at 105 from a telephoto lens, so you're getting more of a blurry background, you know, just shooting 100 millimeters, and you could shoot a whole wide range of different things with a lens like this. Now, when I was shooting with this lens, I was going for more of a grainy look. The reason why I say this is it's a f4 lens. It's not going to do the best in low light situations. And this situation where I was shooting in this location, we were running out of light really fast. And, we were just, we're a little behind on schedule. And the light in the studio was, starting to fade. Now, I was also using an on-camera flash, but I rely on natural light for especially situations like this where I'm doing more lifestyle, that type of photography. So I was relying on natural light and the light was starting to fade. So it would be great in a situation like this if I had more of a f2.8. I know they don't make a 24-105 f2.8, but it would have been great if we had that extra couple stops of light, maybe 1.4, 1.8 on a different lens. So if you're in a situation where the lighting is starting to change, it's starting to get low light and you need that low light sensitivity, either have a camera that's really good in low light, which the Canon cameras are, or have faster glass. For me, this shoot didn't really bother me, the fact that it was getting more grainy. I just bumped ISO. I was looking for a more grainy vintage look. It didn't bother me. But in a situation where you don't want the noisiest image, where you want the cleanest possible image that you can get, I advise you to not shoot with a f4 lens. Image quality, all the Canon RF lenses and all the Canon L series lenses in general just have amazing image quality. I was a big fan when the lighting wasn't an issue. I was a big fan of just the color and the contrast this lens has. A lot of times I was shooting with this lens and I was thinking, man, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference from this lens and the 28-70 f2 if they both were at f4. I don't think you would be able to tell the difference. But shooting f4, you're still getting a good amount of blur in the background. You're still getting enough light in most situations. It's a great lens for most types of photography, as long as you're not worrying about low light. Autofocus in this lens worked really well. The light in the studio was starting to get really, really low. And a lot of cameras like the C70 that I'm shooting on right now kind of suffer when it's a low light situation when it comes to autofocus and stuff like that. But with the Canon R6 and with my Canon EOS R, which I was using, it really was not a problem. Honestly, the autofocus never really failed me. I have like only a few images that are not in focus, or at least somewhat in focus, when I looked on Lightroom. So that's really good. And I shot like 2,000 photos. So for that type of accuracy is just amazing. Now, why would I pick a Canon 24-105 f4 versus a more expensive 28-70 or any other type of Canon lens that's f2.8 or something like that? Now, if you're an all-around shooter, right now you're in a good situation if you are a beginner. I think if you're a beginner photographer or beginner videographer, you should really consider looking at the 24-105 and maybe a 15-35 or 14-35. And that alone would really just cover most bases when you're shooting weddings, photography, video, documentary work. You pretty much can shoot anything with those two lenses. If you really want to step your game up, obviously, I personally like to shoot primes if I can. But if you really want to step your game up, obviously you can get the 28-70 f2.8. That extra stop of light, you'll know if you need that. If you're shooting a lot of low light weddings and you find that you're always in situations when you're like, damn, I really wish I had another stop of light, then obviously you should go with a 2.8 lens compared to the f4. But if you're in bright situations, I think you should really consider the 24-105 versus another lens, because the price of the 24-105 is $1,000 compared to the 28-70, which could be the only equivalent I can think of. The 28-70 f2 is about $3,000. So you can buy like 3 of these lenses for that one lens. I had a really good time shooting with this lens, and it was really surprising because I personally shy away from f4 lenses. So it was really cool to actually shoot with a lens that was f4 and be like, wow, this is really cool. So that's all I have to say about the 24-105. If you have any questions about videography or photography, hit me up in the comments below, and I will see you next time. See you later.